So initially, can you open a notepad and write out the questions like
Yes,
if my
yes.
query is taking long, like what all questions we can expect? Somewhere around
Okay.
like 5, 10 questions.
Yeah. Okay. Let me start writing those. Yeah. Let's suppose live yesterday. My application.
I can only see the SSMS screen. I think.
Well, SSMS. Okay. Let me try to share once again. Let me share with the entire screen. Are you able to see my notepad?
Yeah, now it's visible, Mr. Rajesh. Thank you.
Okay. So yesterday my application was just working fine, but today, 10 a.m. IST, is not working expected. Let's suppose this is the first question. Second, yesterday my application after like a patching. Okay. Production. My production server is not working properly. My overall application is working, but finance module is not working expected. Second, complete server is not working expected, and I am not able to connect even SQL instance. Okay. Fifth, intermittent performance is not working. SQL Server performance is optimal. Windows Server is not working expected. In some cases, maybe they will ask Windows Server and SQL services is not working expected. Basically, we are getting a performance issue. Observing performance issue. Anything else you want to add here?
Uh, query is running slow, or the stored procedure is running slow, taking a
Okay.
long time to complete.
Okay. A specific queries slash procedure is not executing.
As
Exec
expected.
is not optimal time. Or you can say as expected. Expected is not as expected. So basically we have a query detail for this case. Okay. So we have another solution. But so main what we have to focus. Complete server is not
And
working expected. Any other question?
yeah, and high CPU utilization and memory utilization.
CPUs.
And
Okay.
IO. Bad query plan, everything comes under this, right? High CPU memory.
Yes, you can say
Okay.
somehow. Anything else we can add here?
Any best practices for performance tuning? Any settings, configurations? As a
Okay.
DBA, what we can recommend
Uh,
to the application team?
Okay. Okay.
Yes. And that's all I think. If you know anything else, you can add on like extended events or
Yeah, we'll cover those part basically when we'll start explaining any topic, basically any like this question, because most of the question is common. But what should
okay.
be okay? When you have to mention what should be best way. Okay, so let's start with the first basically. Okay,
Okay.
so that we will start like, and maybe some points are common between all the questions basically. So
Okay.
let's suppose interviewer is asking, my application was not working. Okay, okay, my application was working fine, but today 10 a.m. IST is not working expected basically. So after 10 a.m. your SQL instance is not working fine. So how you can start like what should be like a process to identify why this is happening because. So what should be like a pinpoint where we have to start basically. So they want to know. Okay. Let's suppose when I'm asking this question to you, so my main expectation, why this query, like maybe your SQL server is not performing well after 10 a.m. IST. So what was happened? And what should we
Okay.
actually have to take care to fix this issue? First, we have to identify how we can identify this point. Okay. So how you got to know what changes made before 10 a.m. and then your server is not performing well? How you can identify basically? So you have to check like any changes. First point, any changes at server label. Server label means you have to segregate here. Maybe it's infrastructure and because you know like maybe some patch applied or maybe service pack sp2 sp2 something or maybe upgradation. First we have to focus for the Windows perspective. I'm not thinking from the, you can say, SQL perspective basically.
Okay.
Second part also, it's a part of window also. Any additional services are running on the server. Just like let's assume antivirus. Okay, etc.
Okay.
And before moving to this part, let me start with one another part. We have to open a task manager. Okay, I will open a task manager and we have to check how much memory or CPU consumed by the your SQL instance and how much used by the other application basically. Then we have to focus which one is a key point we have to focus basically. Like I said, like we have to focus this one. But before that, we have to open a task manager and we got to know how much utilization by the SQL services and other application. Okay, so let's suppose
Okay.
SQL service are like a consuming 50%, more than 50% of memory, CPU, network, and IO, let's suppose. And this is a normal case, or this is a, you can say it's a, this is happening all the time basically. If you have a states, then you have to start matching. Let's suppose today you join this company and you are facing this one. So you can't take a decision. It's a 50%, more than 50% if they are consuming SQL instance. So this is a bad or good. So if you have to estate, like you have a states or maybe you have a senior or maybe you have a like a project manager, they will provide this information or maybe infrastructure team can provide. Or if you have like let's suppose your server hosted into the Azure virtual machine. So you can check a statistic, how much utilization in a last like a 6 month or 7 month. What is the utilization by the SQL and other services basically. So maybe some Azure monitor is there. So in log, we'll get all the detail basically.
Okay.
So let's suppose I am like a focusing like a, if more than 50%, it means let's assume SQL Server is culprit. And if less than that, then I'll be assuming SQL Server is not culprit. If not culprit, then you have to focus. Like let's suppose utilization is less than 50%. Okay. Then we have to focus this point. What are additional services is running here?
Like any other application or any other software which is running on that server.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Basically, they are running. Let's suppose for my case, I work with a one company A1 Habit. Okay. So they running a some net backup, semantic backup tool basically. It's a net backup tool. So they directly taking a backup from the server and they placing a backup on the net backup server basically.
Okay.
So those tool is also like consuming a high CPU, high memory. So for that case, you have to like take care like if your backup is running and back due to backup, your application performance is degrading. So that case, like if backup is running, you can kill for now because full backup is already done yesterday or maybe day before. So on basis of whatever checkpoint and run book you have to take a decision. Let's suppose this is not a case. You got like some antivirus is running. So now you have to think like because you are not a right owner for this antivirus, you have to reach out to infrastructure team, window team, and they will suggest what we can do here. So maybe they can like stop antivirus, or maybe they will stop scanning of those services or machine, you can say. So after like stopping a services, maybe your utilization of CPU memory and RAM, it's maybe you will get a good performance. So
Okay.
application perspective, you have to think like if additional services are running, additional application is running, you can't take a directly decision. It's depend like let's suppose you are owner of both window services as well as SQL services. Then you can take a decision in a mid-level company. But if you will working for the big company, big brand, so basically they have an infrastructure team and they are doing this activity. So you have to highlight these applications are consuming high CPU and memory, and they will take a action against those applications. But let's suppose this is not a case. We have to focus SQL Server, and now I'm converting into the more than 50%. So it means whatever is running due to SQL services and it's creating problem and you are getting a performance issue. Performance is degrading of your SQL Server and application. So what should be next point? What changes they made before 10 a.m. and then it's creating problem. So first step, you have to check what like a procedure they made a changes, what query they made a changes. So how you can check those? In a basically code, you got to know like a sys.sys procedure. You'll get a list of the procedure and a modified date is also mentioned there.
Okay.
So let's suppose, yes, today morning I said like a 10 a.m. It means let's assume it's a Monday only. Okay. Monday, when I started my shift, I got to know your SQL is not performing well. Or last weekend, we did some deployment or release on the server. Let's suppose I added one table into the join and I created one new like existing procedure I modified. Okay. And due to report requirement, I added one another table into the join. Let's assume we have a setup procedure and in procedure, I added one table into the each and every procedure. And those procedure is not performing well basically.
Okay.
So how you got to know sys procedure? Let me check. Here is a query so that you got to know
Okay.
which procedure is modified here. Procedure basically. Okay. In this procedure, you can see here is a created date and modified date.
Okay.
So you have to check like let's see today is a date. I'm saying first you have to calculate like a order by. You have to go with the order by descending. Order by, maybe I'm going with a both part. So basically you got to know what procedure modified or maybe some new procedure is also created. Okay.
Okay.
So both case you have to check. Maybe one procedure is newly created and those procedure is not fully tuned and maybe it's not reviewed by the DBA or developer basically.
Okay.
So you got to know this procedure is recently modified. Maybe it's
Okay.
mentioned 8th of May 2023.
Okay.
So with help of this procedure, you got to know this query or this procedure is modified by some people or maybe deployed on the, let's suppose maybe I'm going to alter this procedure. Let's assume I'm going to open this procedure and alter for now. So you
Okay.
got to know it's a modified date will change. I'm just uncommenting and altering those part. So now you can
Okay.
see, okay, I'm going with the order by, okay, modified it. Which procedure table I selected here? Okay, 28th
Yes.
of May, 20th of Jan,
Yes. Jan.
2025.
Yes.
Just now it's modified,
Right.
754. So you got to know,
Okay.
maybe some cases you will get a created data, maybe some table, you can say procedure created recently, and those procedure is not, you can say fully tuned.
Okay.
So now what should be action? Okay, let's suppose you got, due to this procedure, you are not getting a good performance basically. Let's suppose I'm creating a same procedure with a new name. I'm going with a 01, okay, and I'm executing this. Okay, already what is happening?
Okay. So just a second. So it's like after running the select star from sys procedures, so we will identify like recently they have made some changes to the existing procedure.
Yes,
So
yeah.
later on, how do we determine like this particular procedure is having no some impacting the query or
Okay,
impacting the
okay, yes, yes,
performance?
yes. I can explain those part. Let's suppose I mentioned I created a new procedure, this one, and we modified one procedure also. So if I will be executing, so first query is saying this procedure is modified. You can say it's a modified today, and this one is a created today. Yeah. So basically, two
Okay.
procedure is there. I got to know. Now we have to check what is the difference between like a if existing procedure. It means what changes they made. How you got to know? Because you have a backup, so you can't go through with the backup. Maybe they have some GitHub or maybe versioning tool is there, so they will provide what is a you can say old code and what is a current running code already, so you can compare and you got to know what is the differences. First step, let's suppose it's maybe whatever table added into the procedure, those like a table is added into the procedure, basically table does not have, you can say, it's a primary key only. It's not created primary key. And this table
Okay.
joining with a, you can say, high level, you can say transaction table. Okay. So now what
Okay.
is what is the best way you have to find? You can't go like a maybe 10,000 line of code. How you can go one by one? It's a create problem. So now next point, what I have to do? You have to go with a estimated plan. I said, please don't go with a actual execution. Maybe actual execution will take 30 minutes and we have a 1 hour time for the debug and it's a criticality ticket for you. Okay. So you have to go with
Okay.
a estimated plan instead of you can say actual plan. So here you can say con, display estimated control in. You have if you can go and you got to know what is your plan here. Okay. Let's suppose
Okay.
in plan you got to know This due to this query, we are going with a table scan. Okay. This is a small table, but when we are making a join, they will do a Cartesian product. So let's suppose my main table have a 1 CR record, and in whatever new table I added, those table contains only like a 500 record. So basically they will make a Cartesian product and they will display record to us. So due to non-index table, due to heap table, they will go with a table scan, and with a table scan, they will create a Cartesian product. Okay.
Okay.
So mainly for
Okay.
this case, what you have to do, basically, at least one primary key you have to introduce into your table. So how you can think I have to go to create a primary key or cluster index. So basically, in an execution plan, you got to know it's a table scan is happening. It's not even an index scan. So if they are going with a table scan, it means your table does not have any cluster index. So for this
Okay.
case, you have to introduce in cluster index. Next, maybe after introducing a new table, basically you added some filter condition on basis of new table. Okay, let's suppose. So for this case, let's suppose you already created a cluster index, and after that you are also getting a performance issue. So why this? Because you added one additional column in a filter condition, and those filter condition does not have a indexes properly. So maybe after executing a like a estimated plan or actual plan, you got to know we have to create like a indexes basically.
Okay.
So last time I already explained how you can create your index. What is the steps we have to take care? Like let's suppose we have a select condition 5 columns and
Okay.
2 filter condition is there. So whatever filter condition is there, you have to mention into the on condition. Let's suppose I'm saying this is my table, select like a call 1, call 2, and call 3 from TBL table 1, let's suppose, where I'm saying call 5 equal to something and call 6 is equal to something. Let's assume. Okay. So how
Okay.
you can create a indexes for this table? So last time I already explained, you have to create an index, create,
Create
let's suppose
index. Mm.
a non-cluster index, okay, IDX, and you have to mention your table name for the naming convention, okay. And I have to create a cluster you can say non-cluster on this column. So both column I'm going to mention here so that we got to know which table, what are column we are going to create an index. So create cluster index on which table? This table. And what column we have to go through? Where condition? I have to put this and this. Okay.
The index name is index table one.
I said like a IDX
Okay.
table call 5 and call 6. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And here,
Okay.
whatever part is in a selection, you have to copy this part and
Okay.
put into the include. Basically, it's a covering index you are going to create. In includes, you have to
Okay.
mention something, whatever I copy from the select. So this is a
Okay.
perfect index for you.
Okay.
Includes.
Cluster index along with the covering index.
Yes. So these column is a, you can say it's a filter condition, and these column is a part
Okay.
of selection. Let's assume whatever column I'm selecting, this column is a part of here. So what should you have to do? You have to convert this one, just copy and paste here, and column 1 you have to remove from the selector statement.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So
So both
basically,
columns cannot be same in
yeah.
filter and covering
Okay. So
and select.
whatever in, yes, right. Whatever into the filter condition, you have to put into the on condition, and whatever column is not exist into the filter, you have to keep into the includes basically.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me start. So let's suppose I got to know like a plan is maybe some cases what happening. Like let's suppose I got a maybe first case heap. My table is not a heap table. I said like my table, whatever new table is added is not a heap. Okay.
Okay.
So is not a heap. So basically we have to create a non-cluster index. Okay.
Okay.
Let's suppose my table have already optimal indexes. My table have proper indexes, let's suppose. Then what should be action? You have to take care. So cluster, non-cluster is already there. Your table is not a heap. Now it means problem. It's not related with this table. Now what we have to think? Whatever like a indexes is created, maybe next level we have to check index fragmentation.
Okay.
Okay. Index is already there. Both indexes is there, proper index. So now you have to check index fragmentation.
You
Okay.
mean to say for a table we can have clustered and non-clustered both indexes on same table?
Yes, whatever newly table added into the procedure basically.
Okay. Now, in generally, I'm asking for if let's say if we have a table name like XYZ,
Yeah.
so can we have both like clustered and non-clustered index on one table?
Yes, both index we can create. But let's suppose only one index is there because it's very a small table, just like you can say it's a dimension table, master table, city master or a state master. Okay.
Okay.
So if we have a city master, a state master, so it's a less number record. Like if I can say it's a less than thousand of record. So it's not required even non-cluster index. Cluster index is just sufficient. But let's suppose we created both, like a cluster and non-cluster. Let's assume. For this case, we have to think what is a fragmentation label, average fragmentation of the indexes. Average fragmentation percentage you have to check. So if your index fragmentation, am I audible?
Yes, Mr. Rajesh, you're audible.
So if I'm saying like a index fragmentation is more than like a, let's suppose I'm saying like a 30%, or maybe it's a
Okay.
less than 30%. Okay.
Okay.
So for this case, you have to rebuild. And for this
Okay.
case, you have to go with a reorganize. But main
Okay.
problem, let's suppose it's a production hour for now. Okay. And my table
Okay.
is a very big table. Whatever like a transaction we have to play like a rebuild index. So if I can go with a rebuild index, so basically table will completely lock and no one can make any transaction basically. So on
Okay.
production time, you can't execute this part rebuild index basically.
Okay.
Okay.
That has to be done on non-business hours.
Yes. Yeah. For this case, what action? Now you have to go update a statistic. Okay. So
Okay.
whatever data, which location is found, you have to only do update a statistic of a specific table. Okay. So if you are going to update a statistic, that will not lock your table basically. And after updating a statistic, maybe you will get a good performance. Basically, let's suppose I deleted a data into the data page one, 50% or 60% data I deleted. But
Okay.
as test, we don't have updated a statistic. So basically, we are searching deleted data from the table. So maybe that will degrade your performance. But if your statistic is in updated, it means we have to collect the right data from the right database. No need to additionally scan your databases basically.
Okay. Like instead of going with rebuild index in business hours, we can use update statistics for a
Yes,
good
right.
performance.
Yes, yeah. And next, let's
Okay.
suppose maybe your index, your processor is not performing well. Then you have to go and SP recompile. I already explained to you. Like if your processor is running with a bad plan, okay,
Okay.
so you have to execute recompile basically.
Okay.
SP recompile. and you have to pass your procedure name. So basically, after recompile, your procedure mark for the next new plan creation basically. So if I will
Okay.
mark as a recompile, it means next run they will create a fresh plan, and maybe you will get a good plan for the populating your data from the source.
Okay.
So do you want to like once again connect with the next meeting so that we can go through?
Sure, sure, Mr. Rajesh.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's try to send once again one meeting so that we can connect. Yeah.
Sure, sure, Mr. Rajesh.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.